Self-discipline is the highest form of self-love. And so my relationships, especially with my father, dramatically increased. So my finances, my physical, my emotional, my mental got right. So my spiritual pillar went up.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk.
Warning! This is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening in or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman. I'm slowing down a little bit so that you can hear every word that's coming out of my mouth. And you are here for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory walks, the weather's changing. I moved from my Mets gear now to from my Jets gear now to my Mets gear. As you guys are formulating for the spring, getting into the last legs of the first quarter of this year, I don't make resolutions. We don't do any of those things here. Like one of my early Jewish partners used to say to me, today. Like we come up with a plan. And goes, let's peg it till the new year. today. If it's a good idea and we can scale it, we can make it make sense. Let's start. What we are doing as a organization, the name of our company is Principle Matters Productions. The name of our brand for the podcast is Walk in Victory. So all of the things that we do will be under the Walk in Victory brand. And we're building an AI agency to help small businesses and coaches that have a big business or big coach feel. I'm finalizing the book using what I know about prompt engineering, neuroscience, and meditation and prayer. And I'm combining those nuances, showing the synergy between the two. There is a synergy now between spirituality and science, with the infrastructure triangulates into finances. Whereby before you can have spiritual knowledge, and the person in the community with the spiritual knowledge had a humble abode, and nobody really listened to him until everything is shot to hell. Then they want to go get, that man up there, he's always praying. But now there's an intersection. I don't know. I think that everything happens by design, where people are more inclined about bridging those gaps. And Joe Dispenza and his organization has done a great job at mainstreaming, and even though they don't use the same religious catchphrases, but they're mainstreaming that conversation. So now it's not taboo to talk about using these tools in a business setting, where you, by creating a true iamic self, or understanding who your purpose is, that regardless of what your purpose is, we can scale it. Whether you're a baker, whether you're a tent maker, whether you're a prayer, we can scale it. Because the world now, through AI and through all of these other things that is at our fingertips, has become so condensed and small that it's easy to find an audience of 20, scale it up to an audience of 100, scale up to an audience of thousands. But you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to put in the time. You have to be willing to not be heard. That's the hard part. Knowing that you have a good product and no one is listening. You have to be willing not to be heard. And you have to detach yourself from judgment and detach yourself from outcomes. However, we have been programmed to attach ourselves to judgment and attach ourselves to outcome. And today, Matthew and I are gonna have this conversation centered around all things that we just connected: finances, spirituality, and individual entrepreneurship. How you doing, Matthew?
I'm doing excellent. I'm doing excellent. Well rested. Practices are going well, and I'm excited to have this conversation. See where it takes us.
Yeah. So let's start from your journey. If you don't mind telling people a
Yeah.
little bit about yourself and what it is that you're doing and why I gave that type of intro. And you can jump in on that. I took about 5 minutes, so go ahead and do your thing.
All right. Okay. I'll try and keep mine 5 to 10. So what I'm doing now is I had a couple different projects on the go, I guess you could say. And the first project I've got is my number one purpose project, which is my connection to God, and then my development of myself, and then my development of my family, in that order. Business wise, offerings wise, I have a profit project, which is basically building sales teams with this company. I have a retreat center here in Peru, and we focus on integration. So people come and they do the plant medicines, and there's very little integration, and this is everywhere, right? It's not just plant medicines. It's like very little integration. I believe it's funny because I think integration is more important than the experience. The revelatory experience that you have is integrating, whether you wake up one day and you're like, oh wow, like I've been making a mistake in my relationship, I'm actually in the wrong, and you have this revelation, the integration aspect. So we do that, which is really excellent. And then my main focus is Real Life Skills Academy, which is 2 parts. It's educating teenagers right now on real life skills. We'll get into that in a bit. And interestingly enough, the part that I'm most excited about is the free platform for parents, where we teach them the same real life skills we're teaching their teenagers, because none of us learned it in school. So a little bit about my story, kind of bullet points, some like eye-opening moments that we could call them revelatory moments. I like that. I'm from a town of 3,000 people in Canada. I live 4 miles outside of that town, couple acres, small town boy. Really healthy town. Really healthy town. Like some of the lowest. It's like one of some of the lowest obesity per capita GDP or something. Healthy, skiing, biking, mountain. Kind Canadian, strong. Anyways, grew up with 2 parents that loved me. Not a lot of money, but now that I have been doing so many work with so many people, I see how excellent of a job my parents did. So hats off to them with the limited resources. OCD. And so I went to, I was from a small town, and it's kind of like, if you want to make money, you get a trade. You'll work at the
Yeah.
smelter, you go up north and you work in the oils. That's all I knew. That's how I knew money happened. I went to Vancouver to study. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to do either of those things. So I went to do a trade that was called avionics. It's like the wiring of airplanes instead of the wiring of homes. I'm good with physics and math. Always was. Didn't like it. Was good at it. So I got the student loan, right? Just put me $10K in debt when I'm 19. Good job. That's an excellent first decision to make. And then I did that first year. Didn't really like it, and I was out drinking one night. This guy said, "Hey, come get an interview. Wear a suit." I'm like, "Oh, wear a suit? I've never worn a suit before." And when I was 20 years old, first real "what the heck is going on here" moment, I didn't know what commissions were like for sales until I was 20. Till I was 20, and I did this. I was like, "Is this legal?" In the interview, I asked them if what they were doing was legal. So that was the first one. I was like, what the heck? Second revelatory moment. I come into the boardroom, they teach you stuff, and I'm sitting there. And my manager, his name's Gurjeet, shout out Gurjeet. He says, you do A, B, C, they're going to give you your credit card at the door. It's door-to-door sales. They're going to give you your credit card at the door. I'm like, no, they're not. Right? So I go into the field. I'm knocking on doors. I'm ABC. I was in North Vancouver, multi-million-dollar home, successful humans, ABC credit card at the door. ABC credit card at the door. And I remember just having this moment of like, my parents are screwed. I'm in like multi-million-dollar mansions in North Vancouver, ABC sales techniques, and I know this guy doesn't know that ABC I just did. My parents, like, we're screwed. And in that moment, I realized that sales is a sword and a shield. And it's more importantly a shield, because if you don't know the sales techniques, they're gonna work, and you're gonna buy some you don't need, don't want, and maybe a whole bunch of ideas that you don't need, don't want. You got to know the techniques, not necessarily to use them. They're super useful to use, but I see you, right? And so I would like learn ABC. I go out into the world, buddy tries to pull ABC on me. I'm like, oh, I like how you just used Jones effect there. That was nice. Yeah. And he's like, right? Just, oh, this guy knows the thing. Okay. That was the first one. The second one. So commissions, didn't learn. Second one, what the heck? ABC sales techniques. Why didn't I get taught this in school? Third one, I got promoted really quick. So I did excellent. And the reason I did excellent is like, yes, I'm pretty nifty at sales, but my numbers were crazy. I had small town boy work ethic. I'm an only son. My dad I was working on the acreage, I was working. So I had a bagged lunch running between doors. And buddies are out there, salespeople are smoking, take an hour break, go eat some bullshit food. And I'm running between doors. Matt, how did you do so good? Like, I spoke to 90 people today. How many did you speak to? They're like 20. Well, there you go. Like, our closing rate's the same. I'm just quadruple your numbers. So anyways, I kept running that. I hit my promotions. I started training people. I got offered opportunity to move out near Toronto and train my own team. So now I'm not making commissions on my own sales. I'm making commissions on my sales and overrides on my whole team that I train, hire, train, all these things. So the next one was I hired these two guys at the same time. One is like, and keep in mind, I was 20, right? 21. Law student. And this is like blonde hair, blue eyes, 6'2", quarterback, law student, like, man of God.
Somebody could really use.
Right. It's fun thinking to myself,
Yeah.
how am I get some overrides here, right? And then I hire this, like, the guy like smoking bong toke before my boardroom meeting, toque in the summer, snow hat in the summer, skateboarding to my thing. And I'm thinking, like, this guy's whatever. I just hire him, whatever, right? Maybe he gets a sale, make some overrides. And it was opposite. Little stoner kid was crushing numbers, and law couldn't get a sale. What the heck is going on?
He can't take rejection.
Well,
stoner kid.
Actually, what was going on? And he's a law student, right? I was pretty savage with him when I had to sit down with him, but he's fighting with his wife. Text, talk, knock, knock, pitch, fight, knock, knock, knock. And so I ended up really going down this rabbit hole, and I've been obsessed for a long time now. I mean, like 12 years daily. I have a spectrum, right? The spectrum goes neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, spirituality. And they're all in the same below as you go up to above. And so taught him about attachment theory. Like, what's going on? He's like, oh, I'm an honest man, right? And he actually was. I'm going out with the boys, playing some pool, a couple beers. My wife's freaking out. And I was like, oh, well, how was the relationship with her dad? Teach about attachment theory. Their marriage, excellent. And then he was the man I always thought he would be, And then my eyes were just open, and I was like, why didn't I need to learn about this in school? Attachment theory would have been super nifty in that last relationship I was in. Like, what? So we're not getting taught about commissions. We're not getting taught about ABC, make money or get money taken from you. And we're not getting taught about the basic functioning of our operating system. The fourth, and I want to say final blow, but there was like many more along the way. I'll fast forward through the next 7 years a little quicker. I was 21. I was drinking. I was partying. I was building my sales teams in university towns. So I'm 21 years old, hiring the students, making the money, spending the money, right? 2K in, 2K out.
Yeah.
And 2 years into it, the government of Canada came
knocking on your door. Oh, wow.
where's our business taxes at? And I'm like, what
Business
is that?
tax.
What's business taxes? I know about my taxes. I haven't done them, but business taxes, and bro, it was a big number, dude. So I didn't pay off my 10K student debt, and it was a big number. And then, of course, God's plan. I pretty much lost all my offices. One got totally sabotaged by this guy that didn't like me, and he just fired everyone and quit. It's brutal. Boom, 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 boom. So now all of a sudden, I'm in Hamilton, which is like near Niagara Falls kind of
Mm.
area. And I'm like 50K in debt. It's winter, and I'm going door to door, dude.
Back at the back at the
So
beginning.
I built up some resiliency, but that was the one where I was like, whoa, like if I had known about that, that would have seriously helped me right now. And man, I understand why they call it crippling debt. I really do. Like it was like 5, 6, 7 years just to get out of that. Okay, so that's a revelation. Those are like the really kickstarting ones. Now I can kind of fast forward. So I had enough of it out east, obviously, after all that. Came back west coast, best coast, and I came back, and I was, it'd be fun. And I found out about this other job from a good buddy of mine that I met at school. Actually, it was a great sales job, more international. Joined right away, brought all my skills over. Got a buddy in Hong Kong to join my team, and flew out to Hong Kong for 3 weeks to train a team. And I ended up living out there for 3 years. And while I was out there for the 3 years, I was doing, I was still on my bullshit. I was still drinking and women and like, but I was doing some higher level business stuff. And so I started learning about insurance and life insurance and making your own bank and wills and pensions and properties. And then I was doing mergers with this really excellent company, basically like helping Chinese billionaires buy North America. It's basically what it
Mhm.
was. Just call it is what it is. But I was learning a lot, right? I was learning a lot. And then this was probably the biggest shift. I mean, I had a series of events this year that particular year. Some involved psychedelics, which I would say really strengthened my connection to God. And then it was like I could strengthen my connection to God, but I was still like, I don't know, God, like I'm still gonna go over here. I had a New Year's Eve that was like a Scarface scene. Let's just leave it there, right? If you haven't
Mhm.
seen the movie, go watch the movie, okay? And I was like, January 1st felt bad. January 2nd, bad. 3rd, 4th, 5th. I'm like, what's going on? Strong Irish liver? You've never let me down before. Like, what's going on here? 6th, I go into the hospital. They're like, no, idiot. You're just hungover and poisoned yourself. Go home. And then I open up my phone and I saw my now best friend, his name's Luke, on day 60 something of this Instagram challenge called 100 Sweaty Sweats. 100 days of body weight workout, no break. Jacked, glowing. And him and I used to be like the whiskey boys. And now he's just vital. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with all that. I'm done. And I started next day, day one, January 7th. And what ended up happening is Luke and I actually ended up going on to create a business that was called 100 Days of Discipline. Now it's
Mm.
free. And I stopped like everything. And so I focused on this discipline aspect, which was the mental pillar and the physical pillar. I built my temple. I cleaned the pipes out. Spirit could come through, right? My discipline bled into my finances. Self-discipline is the highest form of self-love. And so my relationships, especially with my father, dramatically increased. So my finances, my physical, my emotional, my mental got right. So my spiritual pillar went up. It went
Mm.
up. Intuition, like it makes no sense. Left, right, I'm going straight because God said to do it. And blessings. Doesn't make emotional sense, doesn't make logical sense. It's just connected deeper in my practice, all these types of things. And then that really started to open my eyes. It was like 2020, 2019, really started to open my eyes to everything that's going on. And I'll make this quick here. So I came back, Chinese level COVID lockdowns in Hong Kong. So I left to Canada to see Chinese level lockdowns in Canada. I didn't know if I was going to stay, blah, 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 blah. I was building my sales business, my 100 days business, was with my parents, only child, couple acres, being a good boy, working the land. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to help. And this is funny. This is actually the crux, I think, of what you talked about earlier. I was helping one of my friends in Vancouver, spiritual entrepreneur, because they're not making money, right? Because spiritual entrepreneurs don't make money for a handful of pretty justified reasons. And I was like, you got to do A, B, C. And number one is you got to niche down. And I was like, I have a niche. I can teach spiritual entrepreneurs how to actually make money and get sales. So I got my first client. Next one, double my prices, double my prices, double my prices, double my prices, until in 6 months it was 10K for a client. I was like, oh, I've got something here. Ended up building this really cool business. It was called Human Potential Academy, basically a bunch of different coaches on the same level in different arenas with different visions. And after about 2 years, it just made sense for us to naturally part ways. We kind of came in, I call it an incubator now. You came in, we had all these visions, but we ultimately got closer to our own visions and less interested in the other people's visions as we got closer to ours. And mine became quite dramatically helping parents and helping teenagers because of the amount of adults I worked with. I was like, you know what? Let's go into preventative medicine instead of reactive medicine. Let's teach them about taxes before they get crushed by taxes. Let's teach them about regulation before they're depressed and anxious and all those types of things. And so I ran one program called the Executive Edge, double entendre executive, using your executive functions to think like an executive, not like an employee. Learned a lot. It was 16 weeks, too long for kids, too long for me. So we broke that into 3 10-week programs. And now what we're offering kids is the first one. We recommend you do it in order. We've got a year-long program discount if the kid goes into all of them, 30 weeks over the year. Self-awareness, responsibility. It's about regulation and compassion, basically. Parents can expect to have a better relationship with their teenager after that. Second one, health and priorities, exercise, proper diet, time management, and then finally entrepreneurship foundations. And then we have a free online platform for parents where basically I'm teaching them all the things that I used to charge $10,000 for. I still do for my one-on-one containers, but now the info is going to be out for the groups because this is my purpose project. This is not my profit project. So we got coaching for parents and parent-teacher interviews every 2 weeks for the parents that sign their kids up to the programs, with the idea being that eventually we have fully equipped people to homeschool their kids, both in terms of time, which the reason they don't have time is because they don't have money, and knowledge and execution of that knowledge. And now I live in Peru, which is probably a podcast episode in itself. And yeah, man, that's me. I went a little bit over time.
No,
It's
no,
all right.
no. But that it was fascinating because if it wasn't, I would have jumped in
Oh, good.
because
Right on. I like that.
because you gave me a lot to unpack. One, I run an organization called Urban Yogis, and we teach yoga and mindfulness, best mindful practices in the inner city youth to inner city youth in the schools. Yes, and so guys, you're gonna watch in real time how stuff just happens, right? I'm looking to do that online, so we'll talk. Yes, I'm looking at. We have a curriculum already together. I don't know. I can envision how to do it online because I'm so used to being hands on in New York, but it's hard running around to a bunch of schools. And let me tell you something about the Board of Education. They take too long to pay. So if you got to
Bless
wait
you,
for your
bro.
money, you'll be out of business. We have a senior component too. So we teach seniors how to get their mobility back. Mobility first, then flexibility. Um, and it's a blessing when you see a mother who walks in like this, and after a few weeks of consistency, micro movements, she can lift her hand, and like my heart just melts. And I want to be able to do that online. So I'll talk to you off of this. So that
Yeah.
journey that you went on, one is similar to mine, right? I too had the backpack going around Manhattan selling trinkets out of the book bag. And I got so good, I had a duffel bag, and I learned the mindset. I learned commissions. I learned no's, but I also learned how to sell. Not one, we used to sell like trinkets, massages, and all that. Not one, I couldn't get a person to buy like 20 massages. Right? One time. Oh, oh, I also lost everything in my 20s, 24 years old, 25 years old, homeless, living in a house with no lights because I was too private and I didn't understand how to manage finances. So that became a passion of mine, teaching people how to be good stewards with their finances and a good steward of their time. So when did you realize that everything that you went through was for this purpose? It's like all right, I went through that. Because if someone was to sit down and I'm pretty sure there's probably more things that you did. When someone asks me all of the things, I was in music, I was in this, and then I was in that, and I have an answer like, damn, what didn't you do? You almost sound like you're making it up. But when you're in business and you start so early, you realize, all right, this is drying up. But the same tools will work in any industry. When did you realize that this was your purpose, and you take all of these collective tools and do it for this industry?
Super interesting question. And dude, bless you, bro. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. I got so many fun stats for inner city too. I'll tell you a couple after this. For
All right.
kids. Excellent. 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 I'm so grateful for you. Feels good. The first time is actually really interesting. So when I had this like opening moment of like neuroscience, psychology, sales, I was dating someone that was a born again Christian, but she was studying genetics. So she had a really interesting, weird take on God and everything. And I kind of opened up, I opened up to hearing, right? Praying, don't know what you're praying into, but you start, right? And just this one day, and this is when I was like big time not an integrated man. Right? I was 20, money in, money out. I told you. I just had this thing, and it was just like bang. I remember it so clear. It's like, you're gonna have a school. Bang, you're gonna have a school. I'm like, whatever. The next time was after I had worked with about a dozen adults, and I was like, whoa, like this is bad right now. You know, like all parents do a good job, and all parents do as good of a job as they can with the tools they have, and all parents traumatize their kids, and when that's how it goes, right? And just I just had the and then it went into like what I spoke about. I just went into like preventative medicine is how I'm wording it, right? It's like working on the preventative medicine, and it's not preventing the traumas. It's knowing how to integrate and move through these traumas instead of just dissociating and then having a heart attack at 55. It's like, yeah. So those would be probably the two really big ones for me. I had a couple other things happen. I worked with some orphanages when I was in Vietnam, and it really tugged at my heart with the kids. And yeah, but those are like the two big ones for me. It
So
was kind of just this ping, and then like, whoa.
so science has proven, now that science is starting to look at the brain over the last 12 to 10 years, science has really, really gotten a lot of data concerning the way that the brain operates that went against everything that they taught us before, right? Like, oh, after you're 10 or 11, maybe 12, your brain is fully developed and it can't even learn no other things, start to learn at a crawl space level. But now science is saying, and I want your input, that
Yeah.
you can have spiritual awakenings forged through two things: psychedelics and or meditation and continued prayer. Oh, three, trauma. I like to talk about one and two because trauma, when what I found, I've been pastoring since I was 20, in my 20s. I'll be
Oh
50
wow.
years old this year. What I found with
Okay.
people who come to a spiritual awakening through trauma, usually when they get healed, they leave.
Right.
Because
Yeah. 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 They
yeah,
go back.
because
They go back to Trauma Town. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's more, it's fun of that, right? And then they come back.
Integration.
Yes. Then they come back because now it becomes like a hopscotch. So when you're talking about the plant psychosomatics that you utilize,
Yeah.
what do you say about that particular stat, and how do you implement in the work that you do?
Okay. So all three of those things, the first thing I'll start with. So not as much prayer and meditation.
Hmm.
Not as much,
Not as
but
much, yeah.
psychedelics and trauma. When we cry, like real cry, our brain becomes incredibly plastic.
Mm.
And in deep psychedelic experience, your brain becomes incredibly plastic. Okay, so what does that mean? It means, on one hand, from a Jungian psychological standpoint, the ego is dissolved
Yeah.
in that moment, right? It comes back real quick. Boom. If you don't integrate something new, it's like, I'm back. I'm back home. But and then on the other hand, what does neuroplasticity means? It means that it's plastic. It can be changed, right? So the ego goes out. You got a fresh canvas for a moment. Like, you can work with it. This is an integration piece. Prayer and meditation for me are the same thing. I'm particularly struck by some lines in the Bible that says, when you pray, go behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Go behind closed doors. And so, and we can link this into manifestation and all those things too. But how it works for me, I'll just talk for me, right? Because what I've noticed with the plant medicine and the meditation and the traumas is they're all different. They're all different for people. Integration, we can kind of look at as like a more of a standard operating procedure, and maybe the intention going into prayer or into psychedelics. But I've used them. I mean, first off, like, you get the call. You get like a call, right? You get a call. Your body's like, I'm gonna go do that. And then oftentimes the mind, especially Christians, they'll be like, that's a sin, or that's like Satan or whatever. But you get like a pull. You get a pull to go do this. And then I've done it in a variety of different ways. I've done a variety of different medicines before, but I've always, like, most of them I've had my friend Luke with me, actually, which has been really useful because we're on such a similar wavelength. Connecting it into science, one of the things that's profound is that the human eye can perceive 0.0003% of what's going on around us. That's what we see, 0.0003%. And I think psychedelics puts that up to like 0.0004. And you see stuff. You're like, whoa, God is out here right now, Like, you see, like, whoa. And it's if done properly with the right people, it's really, really useful. Actually, the favorite way that I've heard this explained was actually on a Joe Rogan podcast by Jordan Peterson. And he says that, like, heavier psychedelic doses, this is basically how he says it. Shout out Jordan Peterson, man. Psychedelics are like fire. And who you're supposed to be, who you really truly are in God's eyes, who God made you to be, is stone. And all the traumas and bullshit and things that you've created is straw. And psychedelics are fire. And so if you're 5% stone and 95% fire, it's going to be a tough experience. There's not going to be a whole bunch of you left. But if you're 95%, and so it's like, and so it's this gentle dance. No, I don't believe they are for everybody. Yes, I do believe they are for most. And your space is 100% full. Sometimes you got to burn the straw away, and sometimes introspection and prayer doesn't get the job done. You got to, like, put a little fire in there and burn away the straw, so you got some space to rebuild. Yeah,
So
I'll wrap it up there. Yeah, I could go into meditation, psychedelics, and the similarities there from a neuro standpoint, but that's pretty good, I think.
yeah, so when we're talking about creating new neural pathways, new that's the integration part. The integration is the pathway. So for me, I'll use finances as one, and we could probably have similar thinking in that area. My dad, I grew up in a single parent household in what we call the projects. So my mindset about money was totally warped. I had to really go into my subconscious and create new pathways concerning money, because I always could make enough money. I can do enough business to pay my bills and to live comfortably. But every time when we was about to go to that next level, something would happen, and I was blaming everybody else externally. Oh, if that dude didn't do this, then this wouldn't happen, and if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't happen. When the real true culprit was me and my money conversation within myself. And that's that secret door. When you pray in secret. It's not go into a closet and close a door. Is go into the mind and pray, because that inner talk helps to create those pathways that we're describing. So when we talk about creating new, integrating in order to create new pathways, how does your teaching and the things that you do help expedite the process? For with us,
Wow.
it may be like if I do yoga, one of my things that I teach and I constantly say, we never say I can't. Once we're on the mat, we leave our I can'ts at the door. And the more flexible I become in my body is the more flexible I become in my mind. So what I'm planting seeds of these pathways that I want to create. What are some of the things that you like to look at? And I see the big smile.
It is so good. Yeah, it's so good because I've been so all over people for saying I can't wait. Like you can.
You can.
You can wait. What do you mean you can't
You're
wait?
still waiting.
Yeah, I can't wait. You mean you're excited is what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just the fact that you said that was just great. Okay, so excellent question, and something that has been coming up for me quite a lot. I'm going to take up a little bit of space here because I've uncovered something in the past 2 weeks that is, I would say, really, really profound for the question that you just asked. People would ask me, Matt, what's the difference between the spiritual pillar, the mental pillar, and the emotional pillar? And for years, I actually didn't know. It's just like God just told me this was emotional, mental, spiritual. I didn't know. Now I do know. Emotional has to do with other people. Mental is internal. And spiritual, really interesting. The cornerstone of spiritual pillar, whether you're coming at it from a Christian perspective, an esoteric perspective, Buddhist, Taoist, freaking ancient Nordic, Viking, Egyptian, Kemet, whatever, remaining regulated. That's it. That's it. Remaining regulated. On the cross, forgive him. What was it? As slaying lions, like being calm. Okay, it's being your nervous system regulated. One, certainly when you're not literally in danger, and two, when you are literally in danger, remaining regulated. Because if you're not regulated, God can't come through. And so, okay, I need a little sciencey, a little nerdy. You're gonna really
like that.
appreciate this right now. Okay, so have you heard of something called the HPA axis?
No.
I'm trying to spread the good word, brother. All right, I'm going to tell you something awesome. Okay, it's called the HPA axis. It's the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. Yeah. Okay. Good.
I do
The hypothalamus. Yeah. Okay. So this is you're gonna this will be good news, especially for a guy like you, because I just uncovered a nice shadow of mine, and you're gonna see a shadow. I'm gonna put a light on something right now. Okay, this is a big one. This is a big one, especially for guys like us. Oh my god, I think I found out why guys die younger. Actually, and I'm about to tell you. Hypothalamus. It's part of the limbic system. For this context, it's the control center that detects stress. Okay, it detects stress detector, hypothalamus, detecting stress, detecting danger, all these things. The pituitary gland, for this context, is the messenger, relays signals from the hypothalamus to the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are the executors, release cortisol, adrenaline, and other stress hormones. So one person's on alert, right? One person's on alert, got the goggles out. One person's on the radio, and one person's ready to react to the problems going on. Okay, we got it. When one of these three things are, we'll just use the word dysregulated, overstretched, it surfaces in a very different way, but it is dysregulated. And so when I ask, and I had this on actually the last podcast I was on, so I'm going to ask you this question, just quick, a couple bullet points. When you think of someone who's dysregulated, what are some things? Like, oh, this person's dysregulated, and I know that because
they like to fight. Love to fight.
Right?
More?
No, perfect. That's actually great.
Always late. I can roll them off.
Oh, always late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. When we think of dysregulated and we're talking about it out in the world, we think of someone this I word it as to the teenagers, someone who loses their cool.
Yeah.
Like you were cool and then you lost it and it was uncool, right? You lost your cool, which is probably like an old thing to say to kids now, but whatever, that's what I say. And or like someone who snaps, right? Like they're quick to snap, they're quick to cry, they're quick to yell, they're quick to fight. Okay. That is partially true. Okay, so we're going to talk about the differences. I'm not going to talk about when the pituitary gland is dysregulated because it's almost a whole different ball game. But there's a stark difference between when the hypothalamus is overstretched versus the adrenal glands are overstretched. Okay. And it's more so like women's beauty and superpower is their sensitivity, and men's beauty and superpower is their resilience. And we both have both, but we're definitely leaning in those two directions, right? And there's excellent power to be found in both of those things, which I can definitely touch on. But okay. The hypothalamus is on the lookout for danger, right? Right. So the hypothalamus goes, there's a little bit of danger. If the adrenal glands are stretched, the window of tolerance is really small. So it might be like, oh, there's a neighbor's dog in the yard, but the adrenal glands are so stressed that it might as well be a T-Rex in the yard. And so the reaction, the cortisol, the adrenaline is a huge overreaction. They're reacting to a 1 danger with a 10 stress response. We can go into what makes adrenal glands cooked, but like almost everything right now, primarily diet and a lack of exercise. If you're quick to snap, quick to cry, or if people are calling you hypersensitive, you need minerals. So many minerals, breath work and prayer. So much of it. It's not as bad as you think, and you're quick to snap. You have a small window of tolerance. Okay. If your hypothalamus is dysregulated, it's something that I'm calling you're dysregulated and grounded. And this has been me. I got a test on like 2 weeks ago, and then I started thinking about my memories the past like half a year, maybe longer, dude. And my mind's like, but I'm like this. And I'm manifesting hurdles in my way, but so he's doing the testing on me. He's like, man, you're so vital and so resilient. Everything you've gone through this past little bit and years. I was like, it's amazing. Because what happens is the hypothalamus, the more it sees stress, the more it basically fries the adrenals. And so your window of tolerance goes down the more stress you're detecting. But men's adrenals are so strong, dude. Like I would have been off the course probably 20, 30 years heart attack, or for maybe like my dad the rest of his life. Dysregulated mind, but calm. So it's easy for us to say I'm regulated because I'm breathing calm. I can feel my heart beating like this, but the mind is not regulated.
And then you become Dexter.
And you become Dexter. Yeah, I mean, here's the one thing about this. Okay, so I highly recommend when we're dysregulated and stressed, the go-to response is rest. That's if your adrenals are cooked. But if your hypothalamus is dysregulated, which is for most men, you need 2 things. And men definitely need this right now: dopamine and testosterone.
I was just about to ask about testosterone. I'm glad you
Those
said
are the 2. You want to regulate your hypothalamus. You're dysregulated and you're tired because of it. Your medicine is like, make your ancestors proud of how manly you are. You exercise like it's literally like step 1, fix your circadian rhythm. No blue light. No blue light. Cut the blue light when the sun goes down. That's it, and that's difficult. 90% of testosterone is generated during deep sleep, REM sleep. 90%, 90%. You can put a thing in your arm all you want. 90% is generated, or in your butt, or wherever these people are doing it. Okay, 90% of the testosterone is generated during deep sleep. The ideal hours for deep sleep are between 2 to 5 a.m. It takes 3 to 4 hours to get into deep sleep. So you need to go to bed by 10 or 11 if you want to get your testosterone right. And you can't have blue light or eat food an hour before. So you got to stop eating at 8 or 9. You got to cut the blue light by 9. And then you do a proper practice. I have a breathwork, prayer, stretch practice that I do each night. I play music, and I do that to downregulate. I go to sleep like a baby, wake up, get outside and look at the sun. Outside, look. One thing that's really interesting is when you look at the sun in the morning, it actually signals in 12 hours, I'm going to release melatonin. Get out, look at the sun. 12 hours later, you get a melatonin release. Cold water, 2 to 5 minutes. None of us like it. Just get in there. It increases dopamine 250%, 2 to 5 minutes. Just breathe. You're not going to die. Yeah. So this is something I'm incredibly passionate about right now, because I after all these years, I correlated dysregulation to quick to snap, but it was just the adrenal portion. It wasn't actually the dysregulated mind, but the calm experience.
There you have it, everybody. I told you we sit you at the feet of the masters. We get so much out of these conversations because I like to have conversations about stuff that I know, right? So that I can talk to an expert and pull and help you out. My last questions for you, Matt. If you were, and you work with kids, youth and young adults, and you would say, "Hey, these are the books that I would recommend, fiction or nonfiction, any books that help you transform, and that you it doesn't have to be deep reads; it could be fun reads that you would recommend to our audience."
I always recommend the Bible first and foremost. Read the book. Read
Read
the book.
the book that
Read
everything
the
else came from.
book. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to Naran. Read the book. Read the book. Ultimate book. Okay. First and foremost, read the book. It's a tough read, but read it. There's some good stuff. Now highlight it. Make it your own. Okay. After that, one that's very fascinating is a book called Who Switched Off Your Brain. It's by a female Christian neuroscientist, and it's about the neurophysiological differences between men and women, and she'll like bring in scripture. And so, for example, it's got all these endearing chapters. My favorite chapter is he boils over and cools off. She slowly simmers all day. And it just shows it. It's just beautiful. Calls in scripture, brings this in, and so female Christian neuroscientist, that's a pretty excellent combination of things. That's a really fun one. If you're building a business and you have a team of people, Rocket Fuel, it's excellent. It talks about how there's basically two types of people. You can kind of have a bit of both, but there's visionaries and integrators. I'm a visionary, and visionaries are basically like, you need them, they make money, and they're extremely frustrating to work with. And integrators are like organized, and like the way that me and my team describe it is like, I blaze the trail and I'm like, done, and they're like, what?
Now we got to get it.
You just cut a path through the forest. There's no stones. And I'm like, let's make a new trail, guys. So Rocket Fuel, really good for team development and business. If you're a parent, I would recommend reading a book called Why A Students Work for C Students and B Students Work for the Government. It's by the same guy that wrote Think and Grow Rich. It's by Robert Kiyosaki. Why A students work for C students and B students work for the government.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a really good one. Right. And I need to remember this guy's name. 1 second, let's see if I can find it.
Work for students. Wow.
I have a post on my Instagram. I really recommend going check it out. I can't find it and I can't remember the name right now. There's just two things that honestly I want to tell you. If we're on a podcast, I don't want to tell you these things. But there's this guy, his name's like Dr. I don't know, it's some African name, something Kunjufu or something like that. And he basically was like, what's wrong with the African American culture right now? And he came in and he's like, what's going on right now? And so what he did is he went all around the world and he observed what he calls high achieving homes. High achieving homes. There's 5 things that they do. I hope I can remember all 5 right now. If not, check out the post. If I forget, I'm going to be like, got to check out my post. Where I go check it. One of them was they believe the future was going to be better.
Mm,
not worse. One of
mm.
them was they had high expectations. One of them, and I know this is a big struggle in the inner cities, is praise. The parents praised the children ridiculously. High standards met with praise. And if you want to see the other two, you got to go to my post.
I just followed you. Followed you on Instagram.
The other thing that I wanted to say real quick, a Harvard study, 454 inner city kids or families or something like that. 400 families, 454 families, can't remember all the stats. Self-esteem. Okay, self-esteem and self-worth is my greatest downfall. If I go to all of the, because I take accountability for everything that happens to me now, and if I go why, if I keep asking why, it goes down to a self-worth issue. And I also know this to be a big owie, that's what I call it, a big owie for inner city kids. If you want to instill self-esteem in your children, they have to have responsibility. Put them to work. They're 5 years old. Your job is to, put feed the cat every day at 4. That's it.
And hold them
Some
accountable. Hold them accountable.
responsibility. Yeah, responsibility. And so I just really wanted to like bring that forward, because it was a profound study. It's a Harvard study. You can find it, but you give kids responsibilities and you don't micromanage. It's a great predecessor to them having self-esteem, which is obviously a prerequisite for self-awareness and success.
There you have it, everybody. I told you we sit you at the feet of the masters. We have conversations to help evolve lives. Listen, we don't ask for Cash Apps, Venmos, Apple Pays, or any of those things. Your currency to us is your like, your subscription. And if you're listening on a platform where you can leave a comment, um, please do so. It helps us go into the algorithms and get these conversations into the ears of people that need it. We don't want you to walk with low self-esteem. We don't want you to walk feeling as if you can't wait, or we want you to walk in victory. Matthew is now a part of the Walk in Victory family, and we thank him for joining, but most of all, we thank God for you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.
Peace.